Now, is the master of the table wrong to be angry? No, this is righteous anger. This is an anger where he has in love showered blessings, and someone decided they didn't want those blessings. They were going to bless themselves. They didn't want to do things the way the master wanted to do things. They wanted to do it on their own. And so broken people, when they know they're broken and they're willing to surrender their brokenness, it changes something. Look at what happens. He says, go out quickly into the streets, into the lane of the city. Bring in the poor, the maimed, the halt, the blind. Who is this? The poor, the needy. Those who recognize their need. By the way, God's grace does something amazing when you recognize your need. Man, I need the Lord. Until we need Him, we won't know Him. The maimed, that's the one who has no ability, no strength. Have you ever been weak? Have you ever been without strength? You just felt like you couldn't go forward? Jesus wants to encounter you. He's welcoming you. Broken people are not just the needy, the poor, the maimed, the weak, but they're the halt, they're the disfigured, they're the ones that feel incapacitated by their past, that feel like there's something holding them back. They can move forward, but it's not as fast as those around them. They feel like they have an injury. They feel like they have a handicap in life, and you might be here, and you might feel like, man, if you knew the childhood I had, if you knew the odds that were stacked against me, if you knew how injured I feel by my past, by something someone said, by something someone did, my friend, Jesus and His grace is here to heal you. And then He says the blind. This is the word for those who can't obviously see, their inability to see things clearly. And God wants to take your brokenness and He wants to do something with it. But if you are a victim of your past and a victim of your circumstances, and you're not willing to come with humility and trust God's grace and say, hey, here is my brokenness. I'm not going to hide it any longer. And if you're willing to surrender your brokenness and what others have done and what you have done to God, He can take something and do something with it better than you ever could. And so you're saying, well, that's hard for me to understand. Just give me a second. That's hard for me to understand. Pastor, I hear you say that. It seems theoretical. And pardon me for saying this, but I kind of doubt it because I've tried it. Can I tell you that John the Baptist, he doubted it as well? Can I tell you, John the Baptist, and I put it in your notes, but John the Baptist, when he was in prison, and Matthew describes this if you guys want to put it on the screen, but he sent some servants to Jesus and he said, are you the one? He was having doubts. The great John the Baptist was having doubts about Jesus and what Jesus could possibly do. Is he the one, or is he just a prophet? And as he had those doubts, Jesus said, send word back to John. Send word back to John the Baptist in Luke chapter 7 and verse 22. He said, go your way and tell John these things that you have seen and heard, how the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. I'm telling you, Jesus was telling John the Baptist, hey, listen, thank you for bringing your doubts to me, because I want you to see that all of the Old Testament points to a person who would come and He would bring heaven down to earth, and He would encounter brokenness, and He would bring beauty to brokenness. You say, well, how can God bring beauty to brokenness? That's what He does. That's what revival is all about. He wants to restore your brokenness. He does not ignore your brokenness. He wants to restore your brokenness. You say, how is that possible? Let me give you an illustration. There was a man who started using broken glass to paint portraits, to show portraits. And it was so remarkable that people had to watch it in order to believe it. In fact, this is him right here crushing. If you guys could turn it down a minute, I'll talk over it. He was crushing the glass, but as he's crushing the glass, you'll notice he's building a portrait. But if you just stay focused on the brokenness, you will miss the portrait. And the portrait of grace is that God is doing something in your brokenness if you will surrender it to Him. I'm telling you, you do not have the perspective that God has. And when you zoom out in heaven and you look down on all of the broken pieces of your life, you will wish you surrendered to God sooner. God wants to do something beautiful in your brokenness, but it requires humility. John Newton, who was the writer of Amazing Grace, said, I am not what I ought to be. I am not what I want to be. I am not what I hope to be. But I am still not what I used to be, and by the grace of God, I am what I am. And so grace empowers the humble. Grace is all about eternity. Grace transforms broken people. And then number 4, and finally, grace makes room for more. Grace makes room for more. The word room here in verse 22, when he says there's yet room, there's a place to sit. There's an opportunity to sit at God's table of grace. And so the master of the house, representing Jesus, commissioning his church, says, go out into the highways. That's the place of commerce. That was the place where they would sell their goods and where they would work. Go to your workplaces. Go to the places where you interact in the community. And the hedges, that was the place where you would live. The hedges, the place where you would have a hedge around your home. And compel them to come in. The word compel means to prove why it's important to come into my house. Oikos. The word my house is talking about a place for families, a place to dwell. This place right here is God's house. And so he said that my house may be filled. So it wasn't an us for no more mentality. It was a mentality of, hey, let's make space for more.